The night was a vast, unending tapestry woven with threads of silver and gold, each star a pinprick of light that seemed to pulse with the breath of the cosmos. Among them, one star burned brighter than all others, a celestial beacon that had captured the imagination of mortals since time immemorial. Sirius, the dog star, the scorcher, its light, a searing blue-white, cut through the darkness like a blade, casting long shadows over the sands of Egypt, where the Nile River snaked through the desert like a lifeline. It was here, beneath this ancient sky, that a young man named Amun first felt the pull of the heavens, a call that would shape his destiny and the destiny of those who would come after him. Amun was no ordinary boy. From the moment he could walk, he had been drawn to the night sky, his small hands reaching upward as if to pluck the stars from their celestial moorings. His village, a humble cluster of mud brick homes nestled along the banks of the Nile, was a place where the rhythms of life were dictated by the river and the seasons. But for Amun, the true rhythm of existence was written in the stars. He would spend hours lying on the cool sand, his eyes fixed on the heavens, tracing the paths of the constellations, feeling the pulse of the universe in his veins. And always his gaze would return to Sirius, the brightest of them all, a star that seemed to hold secrets too vast for mortal comprehension. As he grew older, Amun's fascination with Sirius deepened. He began to notice patterns, subtle shifts in its position that seemed to correspond with the flooding of the Nile. The annual inundation was the lifeblood of Egypt, a divine gift that brought fertile soil and bountiful harvests. But it was also a mystery, a phenomenon that no one could fully explain. Amun became convinced that Sirius held the key. He began to record its movements, carving intricate charts into stone tablets, his hands trembling with excitement as he uncovered the star's secrets. He discovered that Sirius disappeared from the night sky for 70 days each year, only to reappear just before sunrise, heralding the flood season. This celestial event, known as the heliacal rising of Sirius, became the cornerstone of the Egyptian calendar, a marker of time that synchronized the earthly and the divine. But Amun's discoveries did not end there. As he delved deeper into his studies, he began to suspect that Sirius was not a single star but a pair, a binary system bound together by an invisible force. The idea was revolutionary, almost heretical. The priests, who held sway over the spiritual and intellectual life of the village, were skeptical. They viewed the stars as fixed and unchanging, symbols of the god's eternal power. To suggest that Sirius was more than it appeared was to challenge the very fabric of their beliefs. Yet, Amun could not ignore the evidence. His observations, painstakingly recorded over years, pointed to a truth that was as undeniable as it was unsettling. Sirius was not one, but two. The realization filled Amun with a sense of awe and trepidation. He felt as though he had stumbled upon a secret too great for one man to bear, a revelation that could alter the course of history. He began to see Sirius not just as a star, but as a gateway, a portal to realms beyond human understanding. He imagined it as a bridge between the earthly and the divine, a point of convergence where the physical and the spiritual met. And he wondered, with a mixture of fear and exhilaration, what lay on the other side. Amun's obsession with Sirius began to consume him. He spent less time with his family and friends, retreating into a world of charts and calculations. His once bright eyes grew shadowed, his frame gaunt from nights spent under the stars. The villagers whispered that he had been touched by the gods, that his mind had been opened to truths too vast for mortal comprehension. Some admired him, others feared him, but all agreed that he was no longer one of them. He had become something else, a bridge between worlds, a man who walked with one foot in the realm of the living and the other in the realm of the stars. One fateful night, as Sirius blazed overhead, Amun made a decision that would change everything. He would journey to the Temple of Horus, a sacred site where the priests kept the most ancient and guarded knowledge. He had heard rumors of texts that spoke of Sirius, of its role in the journey of the pharaohs to the afterlife. He knew that the priests would not welcome him, that they would see his quest as a threat to their authority, but he also knew that he could not turn back. The truth was out there, waiting for him, and he would not rest until he had uncovered it. The journey to the temple was long and arduous, a trek across desert and mountain that tested the limits of Amun's endurance. But he pressed on, driven by a force he could not name. When he finally reached the temple, he was met with suspicion and hostility. The priests, clad in robes of pure white, barred his way, their eyes cold and unyielding. But Amun was undeterred. He spoke of his discoveries, of the patterns he had uncovered, of the binary nature of Sirius. His words were met with silence, then with murmurs of disbelief, but as he spoke, something shifted in the air, a subtle change that hinted at the possibility of acceptance. In the end, it was the high priest, an ancient man with eyes like chips of obsidian, who stepped forward. He studied Amun for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "You have seen what others cannot," he said, his voice a low rumble that seemed to echo through the very stones of the temple. "But knowledge is a double-edged sword. It can illuminate, but it can also destroy. Are you prepared to bear its weight?" Amun hesitated, then nodded. "I am." The high priest led him deep into the temple, to a chamber hidden behind a wall of stone. The air was thick with the scent of incense, and the walls were covered in hieroglyphs that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, and on it rested a scroll, ancient and fragile, its edges crumbling with age. The high priest handed it to Amun, his expression unreadable. "This is the Book of Sirius," he said. "It contains the knowledge you seek, but be warned, once you open it, there is no turning back." Amun's hands trembled as he unrolled the scroll. The text was written in a language he did not recognize, but the images were clear enough. They depicted Sirius as a gateway, a portal through which the souls of the pharaohs passed on their journey to the afterlife. But there was more. The scroll spoke of a time when Sirius would align with other stars, creating a celestial event of unparalleled power. It was a prophecy, a vision of the future that filled Amun with both hope and dread. As he read, he felt a strange sensation, as though the very fabric of reality was shifting around him. The air grew thick, the light dimmed, and for a moment he thought he saw something moving in the shadows, something vast and unknowable. He blinked and the sensation passed, but he knew that he had been changed. The knowledge he had gained was not just a gift, it was a burden, a responsibility that he would carry for the rest of his days. When he emerged from the temple, the sun was rising, its golden light spilling over the horizon. Sirius had set, but its presence lingered, a ghostly echo in the dawn sky. Amun stood for a long time, staring at the place where the star had been, feeling the weight of the scroll in his hands. He knew that his journey was far from over, that the secrets of Sirius were only the beginning. But for now, he was content to stand beneath the vast, unending tapestry of the night sky, a single thread in the grand design of the universe. The city of Alexandria was a crucible of knowledge, a place where the wisdom of the ancient world was distilled into scrolls and codices, stored in the great library that stood as a testament to human curiosity and ambition. Its towering columns and labyrinthine halls were filled with the whispers of scholars, the rustle of parchment, and the faint scent of ink and papyrus. It was here, amidst this temple of learning, that Cleon, a Greek astronomer of unparalleled intellect, found himself drawn to the mysteries of Sirius, the dog star, a celestial body that had captivated humanity for millennia. Cleon was a man of science, his mind sharp and analytical, his methods rigorous and precise. He had little patience for the superstitions and myths that surrounded the stars, preferring to seek out the truths that lay hidden in their light. Yet even he could not deny the allure of Sirius. Its brilliance was unmatched, a beacon in the night sky that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. It was a star that had been worshipped, feared, and studied by countless civilizations, each leaving behind fragments of knowledge that Cleon was determined to piece together. His journey began in the library's vast archives, where he spent countless hours poring over ancient texts, his fingers tracing the faded ink of Egyptian hieroglyphs, Greek scrolls, and Roman treatises. He read of Sirius's role in the Egyptian calendar, its heliacal rising marking the flooding of the Nile and the beginning of a new year. He discovered references to the star in Greek mythology, where it was associated with the dog of Orion, the great hunter, and in Roman lore, where it was said to bring the scorching heat of summer, the infamous dog days. But it was the Polynesian navigators who truly captured his imagination. They had used Sirius as a guide, a celestial compass that led them across vast oceans to distant lands. To them, Sirius was not just a star, it was a lifeline. a connection to the divine. As Cleon delved deeper, he began to notice patterns, threads of knowledge that wove together to form a tapestry of understanding. He realized that Sirius was more than just a star. It was a symbol, a focal point for humanity's quest to understand the cosmos. But it was also a mystery, a puzzle that defied easy explanation. The more he learned, the more questions arose, each one more tantalizing than the last. What was the true nature of Sirius? Why did it hold such power over the human imagination, and what secrets did it still hold, waiting to be uncovered? Cleon's investigations led him to a startling realization. Sirius was not a single star, but a binary system, a pair of stars locked in an eternal dance. The discovery was both exhilarating and humbling. It challenged everything he thought he knew about the heavens, forcing him to reconsider the very foundations of his understanding. He spent months refining his observations, using the library's collection of astrolabes and armillary spheres to chart the movements of Sirius and its companion. He calculated their orbits, their masses, their luminosities, each piece of data bringing him closer to the truth. But the truth, when it came, was not what he expected. As he studied the binary system, he began to notice anomalies, irregularities that defied explanation. The light from Sirius seemed to flicker, as if something was passing in front of it, blocking its rays. At first he dismissed it as a trick of the atmosphere, a distortion caused by the Earth's turbulent air. But the anomalies persisted, growing more pronounced with each passing night. Cleon's curiosity turned to unease. What could be causing these fluctuations? Was it a natural phenomenon, or something more sinister? His search for answers led him to a forgotten corner of the library, where he found a scroll that had been hidden away for centuries. It was written in a language he did not recognize, its symbols strange and otherworldly. But as he studied it, he began to decipher its meaning. The scroll spoke of Sirius not as a star, but as a gateway, a portal to another realm. It described a time when the alignment of Sirius with other stars would create a celestial event of unparalleled power, an event that would open the gateway and unleash forces beyond human comprehension. Cleon's mind raced as he read, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and excitement. Was this the key to the anomalies he had observed? Was Sirius not just a star, but a doorway to another dimension? The idea was both thrilling and terrifying, a revelation that could change the course of history. But it was also a burden, a responsibility that weighed heavily on his shoulders. He knew that he could not keep this knowledge to himself, but he also knew that sharing it could have dire consequences. The world was not ready for such a revelation, and those in power would do anything to suppress it. As he pondered his next move, Cleon was visited by a strange dream. He found himself standing on a vast plain, the sky above him filled with stars that pulsed with a strange rhythmic light. In the distance, he saw a figure, cloaked in shadow, its form shifting and changing like smoke. The figure beckoned to him, its voice a whisper that echoed in his mind. "You have seen the truth," it said, "but the truth is only the beginning. The gateway is opening and you must be ready." Cleon awoke with a start, his heart racing, his body drenched in sweat. The dream lingered in his mind, its images vivid and unsettling. He knew that it was more than just a dream, it was a message, a warning. The gateway was real, and it was opening, but what lay on the other side? And what role was he meant to play in the events to come? Determined to find answers, Cleon returned to his studies with renewed vigor. He began to compile his findings, creating a detailed record of his observations and theories. He knew that his work would be controversial, that it would challenge the established order and provoke the ire of those who sought to control knowledge. But he also knew that it was necessary. The truth could not be hidden forever, and the world needed to be prepared for what was coming. As he worked, he began to notice changes in the world around him. The air seemed charged with electricity, the nights growing darker, the stars brighter. People spoke of strange occurrences, of lights in the sky and whispers on the wind. Cleon knew that these were signs, harbingers of the celestial event foretold in the scroll. The alignment was approaching, and with it, the opening of the gateway. On the night of the alignment, Cleon stood on the roof of the library, his eyes fixed on the sky. The air was still, the stars burning with an intensity he had never seen before. Sirius blazed overhead, its light almost blinding, its companion a faint shadow beside it. As the hours passed, he felt a strange sensation, a tingling in the air that made his skin crawl. The stars seemed to shift, their positions changing, as if the very fabric of the cosmos was being rearranged. And then, it happened. A beam of light shot down from Sirius, a column of pure energy that pierced the earth and illuminated the night. Cleon shielded his eyes, his heart pounding as the light grew brighter, more intense. He felt a pull, a force that seemed to draw him toward the beam, and he knew that this was the gateway, the portal to another realm. For a moment he hesitated, torn between fear and curiosity. But then he stepped forward, into the light. The world around him dissolved, replaced by a swirling vortex of color and sound. He felt himself being pulled, stretched, as if he were being torn apart and reassembled. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. Cleon found himself standing in a place that defied description. The sky was a swirling mass of stars and nebulae. The ground beneath his feet, a shimmering, translucent surface that seemed to ripple like water. In the distance, he saw shapes, forms that were both familiar and alien, their movements graceful and deliberate. He knew that he was no longer in his world, that he had crossed the threshold into another realm. As he explored, he felt a sense of awe and wonder, but also a deep unease. This place was beautiful, but it was also dangerous, a realm of infinite possibilities and unimaginable power. He knew that he could not stay, that he had to return to his world and share what he had learned, but he also knew that he would never be the same. The gateway had changed him, opened his mind to truths that he could never unsee. When he finally returned to Alexandria, he found that only a few hours had passed, though it felt like an eternity. He knew that he had a choice to make. He could keep his discoveries to himself, protecting the world from the knowledge of the gateway, or he could share what he had learned, risking chaos and upheaval in the pursuit of truth. In the end, he chose to share. He knew that the world was not ready, but he also knew that it was better to face the unknown with open eyes than to stumble blindly into the darkness. He spent the rest of his life documenting his findings, creating a legacy that would endure long after he was gone. His work became the foundation for future generations of astronomers, a beacon of knowledge that would guide humanity through the ages. And though he never returned to the gateway, he knew that it was still there, waiting. The dog star continued to blaze in the night sky, a reminder of the mysteries that lay beyond the reach of mortal understanding. Cleon's legacy was not just in his discoveries, but in his courage. His willingness to seek out the truth no matter the cost. And as long as Sirius burned in the heavens, his story would endure, a testament to the enduring power of curiosity and the unquenchable thirst for knowledge.